welcome to Frankston Library School Holiday Program. My name's Monica and today we are making honey joys. Sometimes they're known as honey crackles. Now I'm following the recipe out of the Possum Magic Cookbook, and it's on page 17 and they call it honey crackles. So you'll be able to get this list from our post with the ingredients and the instructions, and I'm going to follow this through step by step. Now I have myself an apron. You may need an apron too if you've got one. Our ingredients are cornflakes, a measuring cup, butter, honey, a wooden spoon for stirring, patty pans to put our honey joys in, a spoon and a knife. So we'll be cutting our butter and measuring our honey. You will also need a baking tray to put your patty pans on, an oven and a stove. So let's get started. Okay, it says arrange 24 patty pans onto an oven tray. Let's see how many we can fit onto. Now I have to be really honest, whenever I make recipes and it says it makes 10 to 12 or 8 to 14 or something like that, I never ever get that many. But we'll see how we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're moving to a new colour. 10, 11, 12, 13. Sometimes patty pans are quite hard to separate. And you might put 2 in one, but it doesn't matter. I've lost count. 14, 15. Now I can only fit 15 on this tray, so you may need to use 2 trays, but I'm just going to work with the 1 tray for now, and we'll see how much we've got left over. But it says it makes 24, so if you've got 2 trays, you can put all on 2 different trays, or alternatively, if you only have 1 oven tray, once these are cooked out of the oven, you can take them off and then do your next lot. All right, so we've put this on. Now we're going to move over to the oven and preheat it. Okay, I've just moved over to the oven because we need to preheat the oven. Preheating means we're going to get the oven warm and ready for when we put our ingredients into it. So you need to preheat the oven to 140 degrees Celsius. So this is where your adult will be able to turn the oven on for you or show you how to do it. So I'm going to move the dial over here to 140 and the red light's on, so I know that the oven is on and it's going to start to warm up. Okay, move back over to my bench. Now I did fail to mention that we need a mixing bowl, but I'm sure you would have read the instructions and had a mixing bowl and a saucepan ready for the parts that we use them for. So our next step is to measure 4 cups of cornflakes into our measuring bowl. Got my cornflakes open and I'm going to carefully pour that into the cup. It's 1 cup. 2 cups. 3. And lastly, 4. Our 4 cups of cornflakes. Now I'm going to fold my cornflakes back down in the packet and put them back in the pantry so they don't go stale for when you're going to use them in the morning. Now I'm just going to clear my bench a little bit. All right, perfect. I've got my 4 cups of cornflakes. Now let's see what it says next. 4 cups of cornflake into our mixing bowl, beautiful. Now we are going to get our ingredients ready for the stove part. We need 100 grams of butter. Now you may use some scales at home to measure your butter, but my butter is very clever because inside of my packet I have the measuring. It's written here, 50 grams, 100 grams, 100 and 200. So I'm going to cut it at the 100 gram line, which will be 100 grams according to them, but it is. Take my butter off the foil, put it onto a chopping board, fold the butter back up, that can go back in the fridge. And we're going to melt this with some honey on the stove. So it might be easier if you cut the butter up a little bit. It will be easier to melt if it's cubed. So I'm going to roughly chop and cube my butter. And then I'm going to put it into my saucepan. Now the next tricky step is honey. And we know how sticky honey can be. So we need 3 tablespoons of honey. Got a tablespoon. You will probably have a jar of honey. I brought this in from home. So my first tablespoon, I'm going to put in. Takes a while for honey to drip off the spoon. 1. 2. And 3. Now if you have another spoon, you could scrape your honey off to get the last of it off. There you go, well done, do the best you can. Now if you got honey all over your fingers like I did, you could go to the sink and quickly wash them. Okay, so now you can see we've got our honey and butter in our saucepan. Come over to the stove and I'm going to turn it on, and you will need your parent to turn your stove on because we're going to melt the butter. Now if for some reason you don't have access to a stove, you could probably do this in the microwave, melt the butter and honey, but you will need your adult to do that for you. So I have electric stovetop here at work. So this takes a little bit longer than gas. I'm going to turn it up. So what we're going to do, butter melts pretty quickly. Melt our butter completely, and then we're going to leave it on the stove a little bit longer until you see it bubble, and then quickly take it off. And whilst it's melting, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a stir to move the butter around so it's not stuck in the one spot whilst you're melting it. Okay, as you can see, I've completely melted my butter into the honey, and now as I'm stirring it, it's starting to bubble a little bit. You can probably hear and see the bubble, bubble, bubble. All right, so we don't want to take it too long because you'll burn the butter. So well done. All done. So now we're going to go back to where our cornflakes and mixing bowl are. Okay, so now we've brought our butter mixture, butter and honey mixture, and we're going to pour it over the hot liquid over our cornflakes. Get it all out. And I'm putting my hot saucepan on the chopping board, so not straight on. And now we're just going to mix it all up until all the cornflakes are coated. So this might just take a little bit to make sure that the cornflakes all get that beautiful butter honey mixture over them. When you first pour the butter and you think, oh, that's not enough, but it well and truly is once you start mixing it around. Not too rough because you don't want to smash up your cornflakes. Oh, look at that. Look how lovely and golden the butter and honey makes the cornflakes, because they're so beautifully golden to start with, but now they've got a beautiful shine, which is our lovely butter and honey mix. Well done. I think you've got it. So now we're ready to put these into our patty pan. Okay, great job. Now we're going to, with a fresh spoon, pick up our mixture and we're going to pop it into our patty pans. Now perhaps your patty pans are bigger, You can buy small ones, medium and big. So just fill it up to where you think, almost to the top. So then we'll go on to our next one, and we're going to do this the whole way. Gently pouring them in so you don't get any, if you can help it, onto the baking tray. Top that up a little bit. I like mine full. Now I'm on to my last patty pan. Now my patty pans were quite big and I have filled them up, so I didn't quite get 24. I'm just going to get the last bits out. Well done. Let's count how many. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. A little bit less. That's okay. I'm going to place them all nicely on my tray. Now it's time to bake them. So they go into the oven and they be cooked for 10 minutes. Okay, now be very careful when you're opening the oven door. You might need your adult at this stage because when you open it, a bit of heat will come out. Perfect. So I am going to put my honey joys in the middle tray, close the oven door, and I'm going to put my timer on for 10 minutes. Okay, the 10 minutes is up, so now I'm going to remove my tray from the oven. So you'll probably need your parent to do this because it's very hot and you don't want to burn yourself. So I've got my holder, take my tray out. Beautiful and golden, have a look at that. All right, I'm going to take them over and I've popped them onto a chopping board so they're not directly onto the kitchen bench, and I'm going to leave them here to cool. So once they're completely cool, go for it. You can start eating your honey joys. Well done, everybody.